Okay, so before I dive into like leveraging through sponsorships and all this kind of stuff, the biggest deterrent for most, I would say, shows getting multiple booths is actually the coordinator. It's you. And also your scarcity mentality. I think that's a big thing that's not talked about, is the idea like, well, if I book multiple booths, have many people working in each booth. Oh, perfect. I don't think I have slides, but okay. I'm all.
You can keep it right in here.
Perfect. That there's this whole scarcity mentality of, I'm not going to get as much CPO because I have to share it with everybody else in the other buildings. And that's false. And we've learned this a long time ago in 2009. The truth is, if you really want to have a top show and sell 1 million, you cannot sell 1 million at a fair without 3 booths or more. That is a fact. We've tried it with 2. It didn't work. We hit 1 million, believe it or not, with 3 knife booths and a cookware booth back in 2018. So that's the fact and the reality of it. So in order for the event to overall increase, you have to get over the scarcity mentality. More shifts for everybody means happier reps. If everybody's making money, you eliminate drama from any show team. And honestly, as a coordinator, your job is to worry about everybody else's success more than your own. If you do it right, you will get what you want from that show because you helped enough people get what they wanted. And if you have that mentality, you will succeed as a show team. So, okay, so in order to, let's just say you already do that. You're gonna go get the multiple booths. Another thing, as a coordinator, you have to be organized. You have to make sure you have a good relationship with your promoters. So, one bad thing that has happened in the past with other show coordinators is they wait last minute to try to get multiple booths. You can't do that. The multiple booth process, let's say the minute that application comes out, so LA Fair happens in May, so the application comes out around October, November. I quickly send it over to Deb. I'm like, here are the booths we had last year, lock it in. And then we go through that process, because then they touch base with us in January and say, okay, we're gonna start putting the booth scenario together. This year we ran into a roadblock with LA Fair. They took away another building for vendors. It's gone. It's a Lego exhibit this year. So I'm like, okay, I have building 4, building 6 only. How do I get a 3rd booth? And it literally, for the whole month, I've been like emailing the promoter and asking like, so is there an outdoor booth? Like, what's the situation? Okay, there's like, no, there's no outdoor. I'm like, all right, our big building that we do over 400 grand just in that booth alone. I'm like, is there another booth available in that same big building? She's like, actually there is. There's an end cap on the other doors. I'm like, I want it. Got it. Take it. When we have a reputation of we pay in full and we pay early. So if you are that coordinator that's on top of it, you're going to have a great relationship with the promoters and you will get those multiple booths. Also, make sure you're not a problem child at that event or fair that you're at. So if any problems arise during the show, be careful on how you react. Watch your language, like what you say to the promoters and when they're walking around. Are you like chit-chatting with them? When you have to know what they look like, first of all, okay? That's a given. You gotta know who's in charge. And so when they make their rounds, you go out of your way to make sure you talk to, in my OC fair, it's Molly. So Molly will come around opening day and then throughout the fair, and I'm talking to Molly. And she's like, okay, how do you like your booth again? I'm like, I love it that you keep on giving us this spot and that spot. We want it always. So I'm always reminding her, hey, as long as these 2 buildings exist, I always want these 2 spots. And so just chit-chatting and getting to really know them and finding out some personal things about them. They'll probably tell you if you ask them, so you get to know them. So just don't be the drama child in a show. Also, I've leveraged my connections with my customers to get these multiple booths. So back in 2009, I wasn't even the face of the LA County Fair or the coordinator. I was technically assisting Kareem, to help run, the show, and we only had 1 booth. at that time. And it just happened that my customer, Sarah, that was an assistant at the fair, had bought Cutco from me year in and year out. And every 2-3 years, they seemed to change the promoters at the LA Fair. It just happened that she became the head person of commercial sales. And so Sarah was like, oh God, Leah, I'm in charge now of the LA County Fair. And I'm like, this is awesome, Sarah. I need a second booth. She goes, I think I have a perfect spot for you. And it's the Building 4 spot we have to this day that always produces over 400 grand for us. Is because of her back then. She happened to be my client. She was only in commercial sales, I think, for a year or two, got married, moved out of state, but we had locked in that location. The third booth came about because, again, we're like, how do we keep on growing? Because the truth is, you might think each booth cannibalizes each other a little bit. It's not truly the case because we have found that some people enter from one gate at a fair and they never come through the other buildings. So we were like, okay, so we have building 9, the first one at the gate. We have building 4 on the other gate. We need the in-between because we're noticing people are not going to each building or they're skipping buildings. So our goal was, okay, let's do building 7 as well. And it's just about asking. It's like, and unfortunately, LA County Fair, they dwindled their numbers in terms of attendance over the years, we have found, especially post-COVID, and how last year it went to May from when it was always September. And so they've taken another building away. And so it's like, okay, so you have to just kind of be creative and always think like, I have a choice as a coordinator. I could have easily said this year, all right, you know what, they took away another building, so therefore there are only 2 buildings for opportunity. So I had a hard choice to make. Do I just keep it to 2 buildings and cut out a third of the show team? Or do I find another booth to keep those that sold 100 grand or more last year to actually work this event and make money? And these are questions that you have to ask yourself. It's like, am I making decisions based on my mentality and what I want to get out of it? Or are you thinking of the whole in mind? So let's see, another one. Let me see other tips I had in here. First of all, Texas State Fair, you guys have 5 booths, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what are you, out of curiosity, each booth averages what CPO? Range? 200K, 300K, what is your highest building production?
We're at probably on the high side, maybe up to 4, low side is 2. It's like 175 to 300.
Perfect. And do you guys also find that one booth is not really cannibalizing the sales of another booth?
We've literally had booths that are in line of sight of each other. Events like that, there's so many people there, like booths are white noise to have the guests.
Right.
So yeah, we always put them close to each other. We have 3 in one building in Oklahoma.
And so here's another thing that people don't think about. So let's just say I have customer loyalty, right? People on my team have their customers, right? So if I'm busy talking to my customer, I can't sit there and get 2 more people in because I'm really focused and dialed in. So if Michael LeMaster has his customer there, Francine has her customer there, we are missing the normal new customers. And that's what we're finding is in order for us to have big booth sales, as the crowds dwindle, we're able to actually focus and hone in, and our average orders have gone up. And I have found that I need 10 to 11 people working at the same time throughout the fair. Because the good reps will get theirs. And if you're a good rep, you will get your CPO. Brandon Brown sold out like 100 and he was selling $10,000 to $17,000 a day. And he wasn't working the booth alone. It was Brandon, me, Kareem, Deanna in one booth. Yeah, there was a 40K day in that booth. In the other building, I had like Francine, Michael, I had other top reps getting theirs. And those booths are still creating 20 grand in that day. So you have to think those kind of big numbers. And that's what the multiple booth programs are doing. They're changing the game and it's retaining my reps. I have a culture, it's very female-led. You probably saw me hanging out with my girls last night and Connor. So Connor always tags along, you know. We let him he just feels so special being around the women. And so we allow that. But you build this culture. And some key things that I do to really get people motivated and really tie them in during the fair is I do like my little love notes, I call it. So what I'll do is if I know someone's done well on the team during the event or even struggling, before going into a Saturday morning, the night before, even though I've worked and I'm not home until like midnight, I will take the 30 minutes it takes to write on like, I collect like cute cards and postcards throughout my travels, and I'll take the opportunity to write a little note to each of the girls before we go into that Saturday. And they're going into that day with the right mentality of gratitude. And they're like, oh, like, you know, that whole idea. And all of a sudden you act better in front of your customers. So that's just some key stuff is really love on your people, you know, take them out, do things, you know, when the fair is done, a big show, make sure you're doing maybe with 4 or 5 people that you're connected with. Go do a dinner together, do things like that. But yeah, that's what I had for expanding booth stuff.
My talk is a little less focused on why you should sponsor. I think Leah did a fantastic job explaining the value of it, and I think that is kind of clear and obvious at this point. Instead, I'm going to walk you through the Big East team's journey and how we got creative leveraging that opportunity with opening doors that we didn't even know existed, and how we got creative with, you know, promoting ourselves through that opportunity. So just to kind of summarize a bit of that journey, our team, we've been working the Big E for like ages, even before I even started. I think, I mean, the earliest I was able to get results in was 2009, and we sold 80 grand, but I feel like we've been there even longer because I started in 2011, and I know it's already been going on for even longer than that. But fast forward to 2017, and we had our best year ever, and that was with just one booth at 231. And after practically a decade of trying, we finally got that second booth. And, you know, the following year obviously ended up breaking the best year by selling 417 grand in 2018. Now, I want to highlight that because it took us 10 years to get that second location. 10 years of showing up to impress, 10 years of relationship building, writing letters, randomly dropping off brownies at their office to hopefully get those extra brownie points. But, you know, it was also 10 years of us getting turned down, 10 years of us watching other companies get their 3rd, 4th, sometimes 5th locations. And even though we were doing what we thought was the right stuff, it just wasn't getting us anywhere. I do want to give credit where it's due. The only reason we got that second booth was because of Alicia. We ended up leveraging a relationship she had with one of her customers who actually is close friends with one of the main decision makers when it comes to this stuff. So once we realized that, that was like our way in. It wasn't any of the other stuff. It was like we just happened to know the right person. So we finally get that second booth, and we've been wanting for so long, and the conversation changed to how do we keep the ball rolling? And really the focus was how can we change our game plan, our path, in order to do that? Because honestly, like in my mind, I was like, are we really okay waiting another 10 years for a third booth just by, you know, definition of crazy is doing the same thing but expecting a different result? You know, obviously, you know, no coordinator in their right mind would be okay with that, and I definitely wasn't. And that's where the sponsorship opportunity came in. Not that it was a new idea or anything that we haven't tried, but it was one that we actually got turned down for. You know, the promoter would tell us, you know, we know how it works for you guys. We know it's not Cutco paying. Sponsorships are expensive, and we don't think it's a good fit for you. We're like, well, I was like, okay, well, you're not wrong that it's expensive, but come on. Now, as bad as 2020 was, one of the nice things that came out of it was that the old sponsorship coordinator got replaced. Ironically enough, he got replaced because he wasn't promoting the opportunity enough and wasn't bringing enough sponsors in. But, you know, when I saw that name change on the website, I was, you know, Deanna Squirtino says game on whenever she gets the credit card. I had that same, like, feeling. I'm like, okay, game on. This is a great opportunity for me to start building a relationship with someone, essentially a decision maker at the big table. Even if we didn't sponsor that year, Like, this is important. And the meeting went great. You know, we went from essentially begging for 10 years to getting a third booth after a 30-minute talk. And, you know, the first thing she said to me was like, I wish you guys asked sooner. I was like, okay. I'm really glad that you got the job. We'd probably still be asking for that third booth. So I don't know if you guys ever seen the Lego movie that came out from like 10 years ago, and it had like that theme song, Everything is Awesome. I love that movie, and if there was like a theme song to describe my week that week, like I could have sang that song in front of you guys. Like I was over the moon. You know, because it's something we went from waiting 10 years to get a second booth to essentially getting a third one in 2 years. You know, my team was happy, my DVM was happy, I was happy, it was great. And then literally everything was awesome. And you know, the thing is though, then I got the contract, and you know, just full disclosure, my stomach dropped when I saw the total. You know, we went from spending like 10 grand to 40, and it was a little nauseous. I know I wasn't the only one paying for that, but I did have an oh shit moment. I'm like, okay, what can I be doing to be getting more out of this? What can I get out of this so I can feel better about the price? And it's, you know, not just me, but like my team as well. Because I've come to realize that there is more to sponsoring than just getting an additional booth. At least if you approach it the right way. And what's interesting is the conversation very quickly changed from please, 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 can we get another spot, to I just gave you $40,000. What are you doing for me? And that was a very powerful shift in the dynamic in our relationship. Now, as far as my focuses go, because, you know, question is like, okay, what can I get out of it, but how do I approach this? These were my focus areas as far as how I maximized that opportunity. And a lot of them intermix with each other. You know, first one was, how can Cutco be more top of mind with the promoter? And how can we expand our influence inside the event? Because one of the things with other companies that had those 5 locations without even trying is that they were heavily involved with the back end and like behind the scenes stuff. Second point, how can we make sure event attendees know who and where we are, and how can the promoter assist with that? And to summarize all of that, how can I put the promoter to work? The rest of my slides here are going to be essentially showing how I put the promoter to work. I know not everyone has a Big E, but my goal is that this inspires some ideas for your core events. Even if they don't do sponsorships, they don't need to be a Big E, and they don't need to have the sponsorship opportunities for you to create the same result. And if there's one thing you take away from this, just remember, you create the opportunity, not the promoter. So the first cool thing that we did actually this past year is, for the first time ever, they had food awards for contestants at the Big E. And that was part of our sponsorship. Top 4 contenders got a Cutco gift set. And what's cool about this opportunity is this was the first time anyone's ever met the CEO of the Big E with Cutco. It was the first time I met him, or anyone from our team has met him. And what's cool about that meeting is he loved it so much that they had Cutco as a gift to their board of directors. You want to talk about top mind awareness? Easy thing right there. And because I was able to create that opportunity for them, this was the first year Cutco was ever allowed to sell cookware at the Big E. Weren't allowed to show it. We felt like we were on the, we were like, trafficking just by having like a single pot out. And anytime we saw Rob walk by, we're like, put the pots away. It's like the Prohibition era, but for cookware. So that's the CEO right there. Couple of other things that they did that I really liked. As reps, we can't really promote or advertise to customers who aren't our own. Between all of the CSPs working the Big E, we have like 20,000 customers on our ROR list and then some. But the cool thing about the Big E is they have millions of people that come to that event, and they do their marketing. So we actually got them to create a video for us. And I got this idea, I believe from Josh. When I first started, I remember him talking about how in Texas they do like a celebrity chef kitchen or something like that. Yeah, I don't know if that's like a thing still, but that, when I say expanding influence in the event, they didn't have that at the Big E until we came along. And we sponsor one of the buildings. I'm clicking next on my thing as if that's going to help play the video here. How do I play this? One more? So the cool thing about that is they post it a couple of times, and each time they post it, you see it for yourself, 80 likes, almost 7,000 views, promoting our location. That actually is the first time they did it. The second one promoted our location. And they actually passed these out. Like, event attendees get a flyer with our info and where we are. Right? And then this year, we're in the process of being like an official designated spot to visit on the Big E Fairgrounds map. Like, there's going to be a pin. So, because the thing with sponsorship, they're very quick to say, oh, you're going to have exposure because we put, your sign up on the fence. And I was like, Jill, you and I both know I don't care about that. But I was like, in the spirit of creating exposure for us, since we are writing you a big check, how can we still create exposure for my team since we do only work off of commission? And our team doesn't get paid for sales that are made after the event. And that's how we put that together. We do also, in the celebrity chef thing, they do demos as well, and they do promote us, and they do have a script that they follow. It's something that I worked with that team to put together. This year we're doing something a little bit different with, we're playing around with QR codes for people to also, even if they don't get to the booth, sign up for sharpening, and just have that posted on multiple places throughout the fairgrounds. But, at the end of the day, we went from selling 200 grand and being happy with that to pushing $1 million. We went from being only able to sell our knives to having the full Cutco kitchen be on display. I now have essentially 4 different people on speed dial that make the decisions as to where we are, what we're going to get, and if I want something done, I know who to talk to. Because the fun thing I also learned through all this is it wasn't really just the one person making decisions. There's like 4 people that do. And now my challenge is I have to make sure I talk to each of them in order to make anything happen. But that's why, coordinator responsibility, right? And then we went from just having a 1 10 by 15 booth to 2 20 by 15 booths and a 10 by 15 booth that now is going to be doubled this year. So hopefully that helps. I know it's very easy to look at this and say, I don't have a biggie, I don't have an LA fair. But some of these things I've applied to even like my home shows, my flower shows, even like some of our fairs like Woodstock that went from selling 20 grand 7 years ago, not even, to selling almost 60 last year. So.